Welcome to a GCSE and A Level results special in conversation with a CEO. A Level and GCSE results have just come out and lots of people are going to be thinking about their next steps, either in education or work. And we know that not everyone will have got the results they wanted, either, so they may be having to rethink their plans. Hopefully this episode can give you an insight into those different opportunities available in the wider NHS and of course here at LSEFT. And today I'm joined by Farzana, who is our expert in this topic. So would you like to introduce yourself, Farzana?
Thanks, Chris. Yes, so part of my role in the organisation is head of resourcing. So I support our recruitment teams, our apprenticeship and career engagement teams, which is fantastic because I'm really passionate about the opportunities that we can provide.
Brilliant. And how did you get into the NHS?
So when I left school, I started off by doing an apprenticeship myself in business and admin level 2. I joined the trust around 2011 as an administrator, and I've been really fortunate to have really supportive managers who, using the apprenticeship route, I've really progressed within the organisation. Started off with a training team, joined recruitment, and then just developed since then by the apprenticeship route.
That's really funny. We both started off on the same apprenticeship course. I myself did business and admin. Way back. So we might get onto that later on if we've got time in today's podcast. But we've spoken today, Farzana, to 4 of our colleagues who have each got different backgrounds, and we've taken different routes to get into the NHS. Each of their story is really inspirational, and it's going to provide, hopefully, to our listeners an insight into the different roles and opportunities here within LSEFT. Firstly, we're going to hear Tyler's story.
My route into the NHS started in 2022. I ended up applying for a role within the trust through the Kickstart scheme. The Kickstart was a get back into work scheme hosted by the government, kind of aimed at 18 to 23 year olds looking to kind of get work experience, come off of universal credit, for example, all those kinds of things. So for me, it was due to the fact that I was a carer, quite a unique sort of entry point into the trust, 6-month fixed term contracts, picking up the trade, administration, sort of general communications, and speaking to people and kind of gaining those skill sets. So it was quite an interesting sort of journey for me because I don't have any sort of prior qualifications that would lend me to having a position in the NHS. I've got a background in aeronautical engineering, a lot of those sort of like design-based aspects around technology, like engines, for example. So getting a job in the NHS was quite a surprise for me, but it's unlocked quite a bit of a passion in terms of I like supporting people, building on that aspect of being a carer for so long, and then again being able to sort of support people through their own recovery journeys, really sharing that experience has been quite an amazing journey so far. A lot of the idea of the NHS at the moment, especially in the sort of younger age demographic, is you have to be a doctor, you have to be a nurse, you have to be in a sort of clinical role. But I don't have a clinical background. I've, as I mentioned before, I've got that engineering background, but I've now found myself for the NHS supporting people through their mental health journeys, sharing my own experience of my own mental health journey, and being able to be a part of that supportive network for people that at their possible lowest times of need, they need it. So you can come from any form of background and you can find a position in the NHS where you can use that set of skills to support other people and give them a better quality of life. Like me, you may not have the idea of, right, I have a clinical background, whether that's psychology, whether that's nursing or whatever that might be in the terms of your qualifications or your GCSEs. But I would say grab any opportunity you can with both hands. I didn't think I'd end up working for the NHS with my background, but I've been here now for over 3 years, kind of found a career path that's for me. So I'd do some homework, do some research, have a look at what is available to you. LSCFT has an absolute wide range of opportunities available on the website, so definitely have a look over there, and kind of email, create that network, make phone calls. If you find something that sounds interesting, read up on it, have a little bit of a look, but at the same time ask those questions. Best piece of advice I could offer.
Tyler came through the Kickstart programme in 2022, like he's mentioned there, which is fantastic, and he's still with the organisation. Although that scheme isn't in existence at the moment, we do still continue to work really closely with the Job Centre, the Prince's Trust, and many other organisations that are able to offer pre-employment programmes. These are fantastic opportunities and a really good way to get into employment if you are if you are looking to develop your skills and your confidence as well. What's really beneficial about these types of programs we've found is they support individuals right from the start, even in terms of filling out application forms, preparing for interviews, and then on the job skills as well. So you'll be supported through that employment journey that you have. Majority of them will also guarantee an interview, which is fantastic. So it's kind of like creating that pathway into an organisation with you.
That's brilliant. And we heard from Tyler there talking about that he was previously a carer. That's a huge skill set that Tyler will have gained from that. And so I suppose for listeners, you might not even realise that you've got the skills which are really sought after in the NHS and are really valued. And because it might just be something that you do every day by maybe supporting a family member or a friend or helping out in your local community, that's exactly what we're looking for. So please don't limit yourself to just thinking about academic qualifications.
Yeah, and if you're not sure about which route you want to go down, there are so many opportunities in the NHS, and Tyler made a really good point there around doing your research. Look at what opportunities are out there, have a look at NHS jobs where majority of the roles are advertised, link in with some of these supportive employment agencies because they'll give you an idea of the type of roles and support you in terms of applying for them as well. One of the things that I would say is there's always, if you see an advert and there's a role that you're interested in, keep your options open. There's normally a contact detail on the advert, so take advantage of that. Ring the recruiting managers, have a conversation with them about the role, the expectations, and just discuss some of your skill sets and what you could bring to that role as well, because that will be a really good starting point for yourself.
That's a really good tip for people that look for that recruiting manager and reach out and make contact.
Definitely. One of the things that I would say as well, there's a lot of support out there as well. So in terms of, we talked about the things that the pre-employment programs can offer, but even online, you can do a lot of research, a lot of information there around filling out really good application forms, preparing yourself for interviews as well, and getting through that first stage. What's really useful as part of our organisation, we have a career and engagement team. They also reach out and do a lot of work to support individuals in filling out application forms, doing a really good application form and preparing for their interviews as well. One of the things Tyler did mention is that he's recently also started an apprenticeship with our trust, which is fantastic. So following on from the previous scheme that he did, this apprenticeship's in digital marketing. Again, not something that everybody's going to be aware of, but again, the amount of different opportunities that we have. The apprenticeship's a really good opportunity to think about what kind of career you want and using that pathway to really develop yourself. And apprenticeships start from a level 2 and can go all the way up to a level 7 master's qualification as well. So they are really fantastic.
That's brilliant. And when he was talking about, when we heard the clip there from Tyler about he's got a degree in aeronautical engineering, so he probably never thought about joining the NHS with that qualification. And it just shows that whatever the background, even if it's not in healthcare, it doesn't mean that the NHS is off limits. And that transition there that Tyler made into the NHS leads us really nicely onto our next story from Emily, whose background was very different from the NHS.
My route into the NHS, I went to a careers events fair, and there was various options into different careers where you could go to apply for band 2, band 3 and the apprenticeship route. I think the bands went up to 5 and 6. Being new to mental health, I went in with an open mind and went through the interview hoping for a band 3. But I did state to them that if I could do the apprenticeship, then I could learn so much about mental health. And I went into the interview, and then they contacted me and offered me the apprenticeship route, which I took because I believe then I would learn so much about the role and be able to give my most to the role and learn a lot about mental health and new things, and to explore something that I'd never worked in before. They offered me a placement in Blackpool, which is where I work now, and I work on a female acute ward, on a ward which I'm really enjoying. It's really good. I'm learning a lot, and obviously I do the academic side of things, learning about the procedures and the laws that are in place for mental health, and also working on the ward gets me to be amongst the patients. So when I came into mental health, it's been something that I've always wanted to do, because the brain and the mind fascinates me. So it's been something I've thought about for a very long time. I've had 3 years healthcare experience before, working with a young lady with complex needs, and but mental health is the area that I wanted to go into. But I think the thing that would surprise people the most is I'm actually a professional singer, and I've been a singer for 23 years. So looking after myself and being self-employed, having to find the work and work hard. And I've travelled all over the world, which has been amazing. And I've met various different types of people, and you do meet a lot of people who from different backgrounds. And I've learned a lot about different cultures, which kind of helps me in my role as a healthcare support worker. I feel that I'm able to adjust and meet different types of people, and just treat everyone as an individual. But I think a lot of people are surprised by that when I talk about my career as a singer. And also, when I did start in the NHS, I always thought that you had to have the experience and the history of working in mental health. But I went into it with 3 years healthcare experience, and you can't actually go into working for the NHS or into mental health without the experience. And I just, as soon as I started my apprenticeship, I then gained my GCSE functional skills level 2 in maths. So you can do that. If you haven't got the experience, you can go into the NHS route. I think you should definitely go for it. It's a huge organisation. It's very important to have. We're very lucky to have it in this country. It's a good organisation to work for. You work together as a team. You can build friendships within the work that you work in. So on the ward where I am, I've gained a lot of friendships. It's very flexible. They're quite open to, if you do have a family and you need to work certain times, or there's certain times you can't work, they will help you with that. But I would definitely give it a go, even if you feel that you haven't got the experience or you're not quite sure which route you want to go. There is so many different options of different roles to take. So you might start as a HCA, and then you might end up going into a different area and lead you onto a completely different role. But there is so much to see and learn within the NHS.
And the experience and diversity that people bring into the NHS and into LSCFT is invaluable. And Emily talked there about first-hand experience that she had with huge variety of cultures from her time singing on cruise ships. And it just goes to show that whatever you're doing now, there will be something for you in the NHS. And I think what was really good that Emily pulled out is she didn't have experience in mental health, learning disabilities or autism, but she's been able to now start working in that, and she's working on one of our female acute wards, which is just amazing. So yeah, there's nothing's ever off the table, I'd say.
And what was really encouraging to hear is that Emily joined us via one of our recruitment events, which is fantastic. The recruitment events, I can't emphasize as much how important they are, because that gives you an opportunity to come to an event, speak to the individuals that you're potentially going to be working with if you were successful, and also being able to ask questions about the role, the services, and meet other people part of the team as well. So definitely valuable. We advertise our recruitment events quite regularly. They'll be on the Trust site, they'll be on NHS Jobs, and if you're on social media, we also will be advertising them on there. So always do keep a lookout. We do ask people book onto the events, and what sometimes we do also offer is actual interviews at the events as well. So they're a fantastic opportunity to come and get involved in. Emily talked a little bit about obviously gaining her GCSE functional skills in maths and English once she joined as well. Sometimes that can put people off when they're doing an apprenticeship, in particular if functional skills are required. But one thing that I would say is our training providers work really closely with us to ensure that they support our apprentices to be able to complete them qualifications and any additional functional skills that they need to do as well to be able to complete their studies. So there is a lot of support available via the training providers and by the teams as well to get you through your apprenticeship qualification. There's, in addition to the apprenticeships, we also offer T levels as well, which is quite new. T level is almost like slightly different from apprenticeship. So whereas in apprenticeship, you would be doing 80% on the job learning, 20% learning as part of the education. T levels is the other way around. You'd be doing 20% in employment, so getting them employability skills, and then 80% learning, potentially in a college A level equivalent. Again, we're working really closely with the training providers to offer them placement opportunities, and also, where possible, guaranteeing interviews for those people that successfully complete the T levels as well. Both opportunities really accessible, apprenticeships and T levels. In terms of apprenticeships, I would say always keep a lookout on the Trust website. We will quite often update our employment opportunities on a daily basis. We also advertise apprenticeship roles on the government website as well. So there's a dedicated site for apprenticeships. So all the roles will be on there. You don't necessarily have to have maths and English to be able to do a level 2 apprenticeship. So don't let that put you off. Always have a look at the actual role itself. And like I said before, speak to the individuals who are advertising the roles as well, because they'll be able to give you a little bit more of an understanding of what the expectations are.
Fantastic. But we know, don't we, that not everybody will have got the results that they'd hoped for this year, and that some people will be feeling really disappointed and a bit lost of where to go to next. Well, our next colleague, Kelly, has shared her story with us, and she talks about not getting the results she had planned for at A level.
So I probably had a very untypical route into the NHS. So I did really well in my GCSEs, progressed on to A levels with my studies, and did appalling. And I remember the devastation of getting those results and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I've got the grades that I wanted to get into university. So for me, that was a bit of a pause moment when I had to reevaluate what my options were going to be. And in all honesty, I hadn't necessarily considered the NHS as a career path. For me, in my world, the NHS was very much doctors and nurses, and you heard a lot in the media about how hard everyone worked, and it didn't feel like kind of such a fun place for me coming out of studying to be. And it was only I had a friend who worked in the NHS who encouraged me to go on to NHS jobs and have a look at roles that might be available, which sounded like quite a daunting task to begin with, but I took myself to NHS jobs. I had a little look, and it was quite incredible, the volume of roles that were available, and some of the entry-level roles for someone like me at that time that I had available to me. I used it as an opportunity to think about what I was good at. So generally, I was organised, I was planned, I was good with technology, Word documents. So I decided to look at an admin role, applied and was successful in that admin role. And my kind of career path went from there. It opened my eyes to the vast amount of roles that I didn't appreciate were available. My admin job was a support to a patient engagement team. I went into that with very little idea of what that meant, but it was essentially a team that looked at how we worked with patients to deliver care, taking the views of patients and using that to inform how services were developed. Which was an amazing opportunity for me to really get to grips with first-hand patient care in a role that wasn't patient-facing. From that, I was offered an opportunity to progress and do my degree, which was paid for through my employer, and give me that kind of educational backing that I was looking for, but I didn't have that route available to me because of my grades. So from there, it's been kind of just a fantastic journey for me, being able to move about within the NHS, within my organisation, and I went on to a project management role. Again, wasn't a role that I was that familiar with, but essentially looking at how we made improvements within the NHS and using my planning skills to be able to make that happen, to support teams to deliver against that. So that was kind of my journey and started my kind of career path into improvement work, which obviously has led me to mental health. So again, my understanding at the start of my career is very much around physical health, because that was kind of the mainstream of what I heard. But actually thinking about mental health and given that kind of the same focus, again, didn't realise there was organisations in the NHS that did that. So I've now obviously moved into Langston South Cumbria NHS Foundation Trust, and it's just been such an incredible journey for me. I think actually just what a amazingly supportive environment it is. again, I think back to, it's clearly a pressured environment, but the teams and the individuals I've worked with have always been fantastic and have made coming to work fun and enjoyable. Yes, we have our hard days. We have days when we absolutely have to get things done. They're the priorities, are kind of what we're contributing towards patient care. But being able to do that in a way that is enjoyable, I think you don't always see that side of the NHS, but it's such a great side. The advice I'd give is to really spend a bit of time thinking about the NHS and the roles it offers. Look out for local career fairs that NHS organisations such as Lancashire and South Cumbria Foundation Trust are at. There's such a wealth of ways that you can get employment through the NHS and the organisation that on first sight aren't always visible. So whether that's roles in nursing, whether that's clinical roles, whether that's more of what we call our corporate roles, so communications, finance, workforce, or the type of role I do, transformation, not your kind of your standard role, but actually really exciting and important to the NHS.
And Kelly gave a really good overview there of how her life path changed as she didn't get the results she needed, and she didn't go to university straight from school academic studies. And she talked about not considering the NHS as a career path, and that's a common theme that we hear, that people think that to be in the NHS it's all clinical roles, and that is certainly not the way. And it's fantastic to hear there that Kelly got that degree through work, funded through the NHS, and is now a director here at LSCFT.
And Kelly's journey reminds me quite of myself in terms of being able to be in employment, but also do my degree through work, funded through work, and be supported through work, which was really good for myself. Kelly talks about browsing NHS jobs, and I can't emphasize enough, even if you're not looking, log on to NHS jobs, create yourselves an account. You can set notifications so that if opportunities do come up, you'll get an email notification, and it might be not something that you've thought about previously that you might be interested in. So always just keep a lookout yourselves. There's so many options available once you've completed your GCSEs and your A Levels as well. There's different types of roles. The apprenticeship pathway is one of the things that I've mentioned historically, but there's absolutely loads of opportunities in both clinical, non-clinical roles in the NHS organisation as well. Kelly's journey is quite inspirational because she talks about she changed her life path and she had some blockers, but she completely looked at how she could develop and took advantage of that whilst working with the organisation, which is fantastic to see. And she's now a transformational lead, leading on a lot of improvement and change in the organisation. So absolutely, if you're looking to progress the NHS, I can't say enough how once you're in the NHS, it opens so many opportunities and opens so many doors for you. There's opportunities to move into different roles, different services, just absolutely take advantage of gaining more experience and just developing yourselves where you can.
And leading on from that, Farzana, that we're really passionate here at LSCFT about growing our own and developing our colleagues into the careers that they want. And Grace, one of our colleagues now, is going to tell us about her story in a bit more detail.
Okay, so I joined the trust in 2015. At the time, I was working at Nando's. And yes, I love peri-peri chicken and chips, but I wanted to join the NHS because my mum was a support worker at the time and my sister's a midwife. So I applied for a wide variety of jobs. I got a job as a podiatry assistant. And then after a podiatry assistant, I became an admin for the district nurses. And oh my goodness, they were so inspiring. I wanted to be a nurse. From that moment on, I just wanted to be a nurse. So I applied for the trainee nursing associate, got the interview, got offered the job, and I was placed in a mental health hospital in a setting that I had never ever been in. And you know what? I fell in love. I knew right then and there that's where I was meant to be. I was meant to be a mental health nurse. I didn't specifically know what department I wanted to work in because there is quite a variety of areas that you can go down. There's eating disorders, there's dementia, there's CAMS, which is Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services, but I knew that I was definitely in the right place at that time. There's so many routes to get into the NHS. I originally thought that you had to have a degree to come into the NHS, but at the time I didn't utilise a degree to come into the NHS. There's so many different roles. There's IT, nursing, comms, finance. There's not just clinical roles, which surprised me as well, I think, because you see on TV, you think it's either doctors or nurses and that's the only roles that there is. But there's so many different varieties of roles. And the sky's the limit with the NHS. You can go into any sort of area that you'd like to. It's just about looking into what sort of qualifications, what sort of pathways you can take, and the trust are offering loads of different ways to get into those roles. They offer on-the-job training as well as apprenticeships too. Go for it. Apply. Honestly, the trust have been so supportive. They've encouraged me to kind of go for roles. Initially, I just wanted to apply to become a trainee nurse associate, and when I qualified in that, I decided, you know what, I'm done training. I don't need any more. But then the practice educator facilitator team came up to me and said to me, "Why are you stopping? Carry on." So I applied for doing the top up, and now I'm a registered mental health nurse. And I couldn't be happier, honestly. For me, it's about the environment that I work in. I love the team that I work with. I work on a dementia ward, and the team is an amazing team, literally. They feel more like family now than my own family sometimes, because we literally go through everything together. We have a great time working hard together, laughing together, crying together, just pretty much working together and having a laugh together is my favourite thing about it.
Grace made a good point there around you don't need to have a clinical background to join the NHS. Like she mentioned, she worked at Nando's before, Nando's fan myself as well. We in the trust, we benefit from the diversity and life experiences that all our colleagues bring to us. We've had individuals join us with some experience, limited experience, but there's an opportunity for everybody to join and have their own career pathway and, you know, how they want to progress within the trust. The amount of times I've heard the NHS is not just doctors and nurses through the career engagement work that we do. People still have that perception, but it absolutely isn't. You know, we have so many different opportunities in both clinical and non-clinical. And there's a wealth of people behind the scenes who can support you in developing and gaining experience in different roles. You might join a clinical role and then decide it's not for you, but actually within the NHS and within the trust itself, there's a lot of non-clinical roles as well. So you've always got that opportunity to think about, do I want a career change? Do I want to look at something different? And the NHS will be able to provide you with that opportunity within the organisation you're working in.
Yeah, and I think about my own journey through the NHS, and I left school at 16. I started A Levels, but then realised that they weren't for me, and went on to a youth training scheme. So I suppose work experience it would be now, and did my business and admin qualification, and then that was through the local authority, and then I moved into a housing association and started accountancy training of all topics. I never thought of that when I left school, but always wanted to work in the NHS, and came across into the NHS, still on my training to be an accountant, and got qualified as an accountant within the NHS. And again, that was, as we've heard from colleagues talk today, that was fully funded by the NHS. And then I realised that did I want to stay in as an accountant, and were there other opportunities? And Farzana then talked around the different opportunities and moving around in the NHS. And I moved from an accountant role into operational management. And I worked through different departments as operational manager and different levels within operations to become a chief operating officer. And then the role I've got now of chief executive of this fantastic trust. So I suppose plug for LSCFT is we want people to progress. We want to nurture talent, and we want to see colleagues grow. So trusts offer different ways to get in, and please take the advice that Farzana's giving you. She's going to give you some contact details now, but come join us, join that journey. One thing we can guarantee is you'll never regret it once you're in the NHS. It is that family that Kelly and Grace all talked about.
What's really helpful is within Lancashire and South Cumbria, we have got a fantastic careers hub website set up. I would really strongly advise people to go and have a look at it, because that's your first port of call, with loads of information on there around the different careers in the NHS, the entry level roles that we have, also about work experience opportunities as well. So that they could vary from face-to-face to virtual work experience. Take advantage of them, especially during the summer period as well. So what we can do is share the link to the Career Hub, but also share the link to the Trust vacancy site as well, because we update our roles and opportunities and apprenticeship roles on there daily. So definitely have a look at them.
So just a massive thanks to Farzana. She is the expert, as you'll have heard through this conversation, and a massive thanks to colleagues for sharing their stories. And just, come and join Team LSCFT.